Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I get an opportunity through my radio show to meet some really fascinating people. I try to really delve into what makes them tick and what they're all about and what the messages they're trying to impart on the world and the impact they're having. I talk to politicians, I talk to business people, I talk to developers, I talk to authors, I talk to coaches, etc. And I've got a really interesting individual to introduce you to tonight with I think, an incredible objective, and that is to help divorcees manage through divorce, primarily females. And she's running a fascinating organization called Born for More. Her name is Kathryne Mejias. Mejias, is that correct?
Mejias.
Mejias, I apologize. She's the founder of Born for More. She's reshaping the conversation about divorce and separation and life's most pivotal transformations. She's walked the journey herself. She's transformed personal challenges into a calling to guide women from feeling lost or limited to living boldly with clarity and self-worth. Her work is rooted in the belief that every ending holds the potential for a powerful and new beginning. I watched The Sound of Music just this past week, and Maria talks about I can't remember the mother superior who always talks about every time God closes a door, she opens a window, and I guess that's sort of the same. And you were featured in the Toronto Star recently because you held an event with Sophie Trudeau, the former spouse of the former Prime Minister. And I think that was kind of interesting as well. So, Kathryne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brian, for inviting me on your show.
My pleasure. So, you help people that have gone through divorce. Why?
Because I am so passionate about it. When I went through my separation and divorce, there was a lack of community and knowledge on my part. I don't want anyone to feel like that. And because of my own journey, I decided to start this platform in order to empower women to have all the tools they need to move forward in this new adventure. I like to call it an adventure because I like to look at the positive things. It's never something you expect, but I like to make margaritas out of lemons. So that is what this platform is about. And I'd love to give you a few facts and stats that I quite find interesting.
Sure. Give us some facts and stats. This is going to tell us that, 53% of us get divorced or something like that?
No, studies show that filing for divorce consistently peaks in March and August. And the reason being is that couple reassess their relationships after the holidays. The 7-year itch is actually 8 years. 69% of divorces are initiated by women. Studies show...
Hold it. What? 60? What was that?
69% of divorces are initiated by women. Studies show that usually for women, mental health is improved and physical wellness is improved after divorce. And divorce rates for couple age 50 and older has doubled since 1990. And now they are finding that women going through menopause are most likely to get divorced because there's a hormonal shift. Women are reassessing their needs with their partners. So that is a new discovery. And research shows that if your close friends are divorced, you're 75% more likely to do so because it opens up your eyes to new possibilities.
So it's interesting. Why do you think 69% of divorces are initiated by females?
Because I think women right now, they have so much on their plate and they are realizing that they are putting all their desires aside. For myself, I can relate to that because I am the one who had chosen to leave. I am a mother. So, working, being at home, being a mom, you lose yourself. And one day, for myself, I'm speaking personally, I woke up and I said, it's now or never, right? I either choose something different, I either choose to make my life differently, or I'm going to stay as I am. And because, of my own situation, I can very much relate to that. And I think women are coming to that conclusion that there is more out there.
And so what do you do to help them find the something more?
So the something more is I coach women through meditation because I have taken many different courses and classes throughout the years. It is my passion. A backstory, I started off as a flight attendant. I worked many years as traveling the world, and that gave me an opportunity to take different classes and courses from some of the best teachers and dive into my passion, which is everything to do with the unseen. Why do we act the way we do? Why do we have these certain patterns within us? So I really started to understand that. Later on, I worked in the fashion industry as well with women, styling women from all walks of life. And I noticed a common thread. Women always look at themselves in the mirror and we start criticizing ourselves, right? So it's these limiting beliefs that we have within us. And through releasing these beliefs, we can actually shift our lives because the relationship we have with ourselves dictates all relationships, whether that's romantic, friendships, business. So once we build our self-esteem, our self-worth, then we start to shift our lives. And that's what I really teach women and show women to do, and to find that inner strength
Why do they need it?
to move forward. Otherwise, you stay stuck. If you don't believe in yourself, you will never believe in what your desires. You will never take action to move forward.
If I think it was 53 or 50% was the statistic that I had read or heard about the number of marriages that end up in divorce, and if 69% of them are initiated by females, why is that? Why do we have so many divorces, and why so many divorces initiated by females? Is there something wrong with the whole idea of marriage?
Well, I think that people are essentially being disconnected from themselves, right? That's why the divorce rate is rising. People are disconnected from themselves. They can't connect to their partner. They can't connect to friends. We're always on our cell phones. We're always on social media. And so what I think women are realizing that within themselves, they want more connection. And it all starts with the self. So they are choosing themselves and they are choosing to create that inner connection. And, I'm not an advocate for divorce by no means, but it is happening. So how can we shift that conversation to empowering ourselves and learn more about ourselves? Another thing I noticed is that a lot of people break up and then they get back right back in the dating scene, but they haven't dealt with the baggage that they're carrying, right? And why they left the relationship in the first place. So my advice would be to look at yourself, look at everything that you were triggered by or not happy by, and really use that time to work on yourself to change who you're attracting.
I saw this interview recently with Gwyneth Paltrow, who I guess went through a conscious
Conscious,
uncoupling
yeah.
divorce. And she said that part of the problem is that we just don't know who we are until we're in our 40s. Do we get married too young?
Well, absolutely. I think we have this idea, right, that we will only be happy when we are married, when we have kids, and we don't really give a chance to ourselves to get to know who we are. And that now it's all about reconnecting with the self, right? So I do think part of us does get married too young, or we don't get married at all. And then we have our careers. And now I also find that people are getting married a bit later. So, and then creating that foundation of knowing who you are.
But then, in addition, I think the statistic is that the probability of divorce goes up even higher if you've been already divorced once or twice.
Well, they do say that, but if you have not been married, if you hold off, then you get a chance to really solidify yourself as who you are, and then you have a better chance.
So, what are the specific things that you would advise a female that's gone through a divorce? Is it meditation? Is it getting a makeover, or like getting coaching to figure out what she's all about? Going to therapy? What are the specific things that you advise people?
Well, I advise that people to honor where they are, accept where they are, and use this opportunity to build a relationship with the self. And what that can look like is meditation, make new friends. Notice who you are attracting, whether that is friendship, whether you're going out on a date. I had my dating experience, and I started to notice a pattern. Who am I attracting, right? And do you like that pattern? And always using everything in your field to learn more about who you are. So meditation, get out there, have fun. Don't do well. I think do not get into a relationship right away. Just enjoy the healing process, so that when you do get into a relationship, you're not bringing in all this baggage that you have, right? So it's clearing and using this as a rebirth.
So, a lot of the comments you hear from people is after they divorce and they start dating again, the first thing they start talking about on their first dates with someone new is their divorce and their ex and all these problems. That would suggest that they haven't got through any of the old baggage.
Absolutely. I just went to this event on the weekend, and I started chatting with this woman who was going through a divorce for the last 6 years, and she had so much anger in her. And I thought, wow, it's great that you're on this new path, but you're still holding so much resentment, right? So it's the fact of bringing awareness of where we are in that time, and really diving deep and doing the work. And to be honest, Brian, doing this work, this inner work, it's not something that you can, know that you're doing. No one sees this work that you're doing, right? So, but it is changing. It is getting to the root of the problem, or not the problem, the triggers, the unhealed wounds, and not being afraid of them, right? Becoming friends with these shadows, because the more you can not be afraid of your own self, the more you're going to live more in alignment, and then attract people that are aligned to who you are, not trying to hide and pretend these things aren't there, but allowing.
It's interesting. A lot of what you've talked about getting over divorce is getting to know yourself. You haven't mentioned much about what went wrong with the last relationship. It's getting to know who you are. Is that part of the problem, is that we don't know who we are?
Absolutely, because we don't know who we are. We're wearing these different personalities, and shifting, whether we're with our friends, whether we're with our partner. We're always switching personalities. Why can't we just be authentic, right? We're almost afraid to be ourselves because we live in a society that judges everything. So once we become comfortable with who we are, live in our authenticity, then we start attracting people that will validate that.
Live with some people that validate it, be authentic, understand who we are as ourselves. All good advice. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with our guest talking about getting over divorce, particularly from a female standpoint, who runs an organization called Born for More, in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're chatting tonight with Kathryne Mejias. She's the founder of Born for More, which is an organization helping females get through divorce. She's a speaker, an intuitive coach, and an advocate for women's mental and emotional wellness. Kathryne blends a mindset work and energy healing and guided meditation to help women reconnect with their inner truth. Her signature soulful sessions are known for reigniting self-trust, radiance, and momentum, leaving women feeling empowered to step into what's next with grounded confidence. Kathryne, what the heck is inner truth?
Inner truth is your authentic self. And as I was saying before, a lot of people don't honor their authentic self because they feel they have to fit in. And because of my journey, I always felt like I had to fit in. I never felt good enough. Brian, I was Miss Quebec. I went to Miss Canada. I did some modeling back in the day, and I still had very low self-esteem.
What?
And
You were a flight attendant. You were Miss Quebec. You were Miss Canada. Why did you have self-esteem issues?
because I didn't feel confident in myself. I didn't honor my authentic self, and I always felt like people were judging me. So I would try to conform to different people, what people wanted me to be. And what that did is it diminished my self-esteem so small that I started attracting relationships that validated my low self-esteem, including abusive relationships, emotionally abusive relationships, all the toxic relationships you could ever imagine, I have ended up in. And I take full responsibility for that because it was my own self, right? I am the main character of my life. And if I don't value myself, if I don't raise my self-esteem, then my life will reflect that. And that's exactly what happened.
So if you're this, beautiful, successful person, but you don't have high self-esteem, why were you looking for toxic relationships?
I
Why?
wasn't I wasn't looking for them. I was attracting them naturally because we are all energy and we attract what we are. So if I think of myself a certain way, I'm going to attract people that validate that within me, and that's what happened.
You said earlier you had your own dating story. What was the dating story?
Oh, so when the first person I dated after my marriage, I kissed a guy after being married for so long. I kissed a person, and I felt like a teenager, right? I was so excited to go out with this person, and then the next day, I I started crying because I had no idea what this new life was all about. It was completely new territory. And divorce is kind of like an adventure with lots of ups and downs it's a roller coaster ride essentially. But the most important thing to stay grounded through it all and really hold your truth, connect to your inner authenticity so you don't lose yourself again. Because a lot of women going through marriage, in marriages, they tend to lose themselves and they forget who they were before the marriage.
So maybe I can ask you a couple of personal questions if you don't mind. How long were you married?
8 years.
8 years. And did you lose yourself in that marriage?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely. Well, because I put myself aside. I wanted to make my husband at the time happy, just like the past relationships. I was always needing that validation, right? Needing to feel good about myself through what others thought instead of harnessing that self-esteem, self-worth from inside. I was looking for it on the outside. So what happens is you're constantly giving yourself away more and more. And at one point, you're living life on autopilot. You're not even who you are always meant to be.
So were you giving away who you were, or was he taking away who you were?
Well, I was giving it away, right? Because again, I
So
take
you were
responsibility.
like this pleaser person.
Pleaser. Yeah, giver, pleaser.
And yet you were saying it was a toxic, or what was it? Was it a toxic relationship?
Yes, it was not balanced.
And
It was
so was it his fault or your fault? Sounds like it was your fault because you were giving it away.
exactly. That's why I take responsibility for it because I'm the one not setting boundaries, right? Throughout my life, I had trouble setting boundaries again because I'm a pleaser. So I overgive and want to make other people feel better, but at the expense of myself.
So what caused the final decision to ask for divorce?
The final decision was just simply me waking up one day and telling myself or asking myself, do you really want to continue living like this? Or do you want to shift and go in a new direction that at the time I really didn't know what that looked like? But and I had a lot of fear. Absolutely. It's Toronto. It's not a cheap city. It's lots of unknowns. But I just wanted to experience something more because I felt like I was born for something more and I couldn't access that more until I left my current situation.
But if the problem was you that you were giving away who you were, he wasn't taking it. Could you have changed within the marriage?
I tried to change, and that's why I'm not an advocate for divorce. I use every situation in my reality, whether that's in my marriage or, different experiences, in order to learn more about myself. So I always tell people that I work with, if something is triggering you, that's your body responding to an unhealed part of yourself. So use that trigger to dive into yourself and see what is unhealed and then look into yourself. But at some point, it's the relationship wasn't in alignment for myself, and my growth was capped. Everything was capped. That's the way I felt. So I decided to shift my life and take it into a new direction.
What was his reaction? Is he saying, "Well, it's your fault. It's your problem. You gave it. You gave up who you were. You could have been different," or was he accepting of your struggle?
Well, he wasn't, too happy about the whole situation, but we had this understanding that our growth was we weren't in alignment anymore, and we were both ready to go in a different direction.
Was he older? Was he patriarchal? Was he misogynistic? Or
The way I felt very controlled. I felt very controlled and I couldn't expand into who I knew I could be. And I felt held back. So once I left, I went all in on myself and I decided to do everything that I wanted to do. And I feel like sometimes when you're caught in a marriage or relationships, that you hold yourself back from the life that you want to. And I feel like life is so short that if we don't take action on our desires and on our expansion, we miss out. And I just didn't want to be one of those people that wakes up, at 90 years old or later in life and said, what if I made that choice? And now the way I live my life is I have fears, but I'm fearless in the pursuit of living my best life.
so, what did you do? You said that you went through a process that now you want to educate other people and help other people go through, but obviously that wasn't there when you went through it. So, how did you find who you were, and what did you do coming out of the separation and then the divorce?
So coming out of my marriage, I had almost no friends. I had no community. I had no knowledge on my rights, the laws. I'm also a mom, so I didn't know anything about that. So I had to learn everything myself, and it was a very lonely journey. And I didn't want anyone else to feel like that. And there was a need, right? There was a need for something like this. So this is when I just decided that there's a need, I need it. I'm just going to go out and create it. And what that is aligning is creating a community of different businesses that will help women not feel alone and have the tools that they need to move forward and live their best life and really create a life that resonates with who they are.
So, give me a sense, if you could, of some of these different tools and the types of people that you partnered up with.
So I partnered up with a mortgage coach that specializes in helping women going through divorce. I connect with fitness trainers that help women that help them learn more about hormones. There's actually a camp called Camp Heartbreak where they help women and men in a camp setting move through different different feelings and
Camp Heartbreak. Where's Camp Heartbreak?
it's actually launching. You should connect with them. It's launching in May 21st. They are pretty cool. They were a vendor at my event as well. And lawyers, stylists, a lot of women coming out of marriages, they want to redo their whole look. So I connect them with a stylist that can help them do that. And a lot of women coming out of marriages, they want to start their own businesses. So I have a brand architect that I connect them with. So it really depends on where they are and what they feel is in alignment with them.
Now, you had this event with Sophie Trudeau. Tell me, what was that all oriented toward? The same stuff?
That was called the Soulful Divorcee event, and I had over 49 women-owned vendors, all to do with the different topics: inner beauty, outer beauty, which is hair, makeup, Botox, and then I had real estate, as I mentioned, financial advisors, and then I had a fireside chat with Sophie where we dove into transformation, and she just spoke about her journey about reinvention. It was so powerful. We also had Eva Redpath, who did a meditation, who she helped women connect to their inner self. And it was a fantastic event. It was located on the exhibition grounds at the Toronto Event Center, and I will be having one next year as well. We had such a positive feedback. Everyone wants to know, when is your next event? So I'm in the midst of putting that together.
So it sounds like what you've described in your own relationship, and maybe this is completely unfair, and tell me if it's unfair, but it sounds like the problem was you didn't know who you were, and that you were giving of who you were, and that you were trying to please, and that you were not creating the boundaries. And so it was almost your fault of the bad relationship. Is that fair?
Well, I think it's, again, my responsibility. It's all about responsibility. Personally, I just wanted to live a fulfilled life. I wanted to be happy. And I was not fulfilled or happy. And so again, I brought it back to myself, right? Because I am me. I contain all these patterns, these frequencies within myself that are probably mine, but also from the way I was parented, from my ancestors. Our DNA holds all this important information that creates who we are, right? So it's like, basically, Brian, we are the latest version of our family computer.
And so whatever happened
The
in
computer needs to,
whatever happened in
yeah,
previous generations is impacting you in your relationships
absolutely.
today?
Absolutely. It's all in our DNA, in our bodies. And at some point, no one rebooted our computer. No one added, it's full. So we need to release all the programs that are no longer functioning today. And so that's basically what I'm about, releasing these old patterns within us that made us end up here. And it's a lot. And by releasing that, we get to reconnect to our core essence without these things that we don't need anymore.
So tell me, what do you say to a guy? You're saying 69% of divorces are initiated by females. So this 31% of the divorces that, well, no, of the 69% of the divorces where the guy is sitting there saying, my wife, because of whatever she was going through, where she wasn't admitting to herself who she wasn't creating her own barriers, wasn't creating her own boundaries, because of whatever happened to her, her parents and her grandparents and in her background that she says is still with her today, just decides she's no longer happy and she's leaving the marriage that I thought was good. What do you say to a guy that reacts like that?
Well, a guy that reacts like that, I would say he needs to have more awareness, because if his partner is not happy and he doesn't know anything about it, then he needs a wake-up call. But I only work with women because I am one and I love men, and it's a different breed. Like, I just really relate to women and those conversations. But everyone in our society, humans, have these patterns within them, and it creates the reality. That's why people are not as happy as they could be, because they settle for situations that they're not actually fully happy. They just are scared sometimes to dive into the root, to look at themselves. And so is this superficial happiness. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be a superficial happy person. I wanted to be a deeply happy person from my core. And I think it's not just women, it's our society that we just pretend to be happy when we know things are not the best.
Are you happier today?
1,000%.
Is your ex-husband happier today?
Yeah, he is happier. He is happier. And my son is thriving.
Well, that's great news. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back talking a little bit about divorce, particularly from a female standpoint and what you got to do. And an organization that Kathryne has launched to help females through dealing with divorce. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're having a chat with Kathryne Mejias today. She's a divorce coach. She runs a business helping people go through divorce. She's had several events. Her organization is called Born for More. And I guess what you're doing is telling females primarily that they are born for more and helping them achieve the more. I understand you got a book coming up. What's the book?
I do. The book is called The Soulful Divorcee. And, to be honest, it's my second book. I never thought I would be an author. I never thought I would write a book. But one day I got up and my inner guidance said, "Hey, you're going to write a book." And I said, "Okay, let's do it." So I didn't really know where to start, but I started writing. So my first book I wrote in 3 weeks. It just flowed out of me, and it was basically my story, my journey. It has poetry, and my second book is called Soulful Divorcee, and that book was not intended to be a book. Also, it was basically my journaling throughout my divorce. And I'm a poet. I write poetry, so I have some of that in there. And it was basically my journey about rediscovering myself, going into this new adventure, having all the fears, the different dating experiences that I've had, and it just became a beautiful story and a memoir.
So this is a memoir that you're coming out with, a
Yeah.
memoir of your divorce.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God. Is your ex-husband gonna want to read it, or no, he's gonna stay as far away from it as possible?
Probably as far away as possible, but yeah, I don't talk badly about him. It's just basically my story and my perspective.
You also have a podcast, the Soulful Divorce Podcast. Is this correct?
That's correct. So I have a Soulful Divorcee podcast, which was my team said, "You need to have a podcast. You need to get on that." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to get on that." So this podcast is all about empowering women to move forward through divorce. So I interview people like lawyers or coaches and different people that can help give tools and advice to women. And I'm also starting this new limited series. It's called the Soulful Divorcee Anonymous Diaries, because a lot of women have had horror stories. They can't speak about it publicly, and they want to share their stories because I'm telling you, Brian, some women, the stories, it's crazy what I've heard. This one woman, her husband sold all her high-end purses, cut her heating off. It was a nightmare. And so many women are going through this that I want to help them know that they're not alone, anonymously.
I read on your social media that you've done one on dating. I'll quote, "This episode is for every woman ready to date with clarity, confidence, and zero apologies." I sat down with Andrea from the Toronto Dating Hub, one of the city's leading voices in modern matchmaking, to talk about dating after divorce, reclaiming your energy, and how to attract what and who actually aligns. No more swiping, no more settling, no more second guessing yourself. This is a guide to dating on your terms in Toronto and beyond, because this isn't just about finding love, it's about becoming the love. Wow. So this is suggesting what? That people are too quick to date again, and that they just don't want to look for love. They got to become the love? Explain.
Absolutely, because this goes back to what we were talking about before. It's all about us and how we resonate. And if our self-love is high, then we will attract people that validate how we feel about ourselves. So it's becoming the love, embodying it, and just, you know, allowing the universe to align you with those people that see you for who you are.
How do you do that?
You embody it. Okay. So this morning I was feeling, I made a post about this on my social media actually. I woke up and I'm like, I'm in a funk right now. I need to shift my energy, right? So, and it takes a minute. I put the music on. I started jumping up and down dancing. I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, Kathryne, you are freaking awesome. You are amazing. And it's about really telling yourself something, but actually believing it, right? And I kid you not, in about 5 minutes, my energy shifted and I was happy, right? So we have to take responsibility, the power in our own hands to shift our energy and our destiny. And that's really what it's about. It's our vibration, our embodiment of the highest vibrations.
Okay, so that sort of goes to the confidence thing, and that's the the power pose. I play September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I start dancing around a little bit, and I get my energy up. And lots of people have talked about sort of the Superman pose or something like that. I understand, but clarity and zero apologies. What's that about? How do you get clarity?
You get clarity by asking yourself questions and talking to yourself. Brian, I talk to myself all the time. I'm like, Kathryne, what is going on? And I have these conversations with myself because, if you can't talk to yourself, then how are you going to talk to someone else? So it's diving deep into you, asking yourself these questions, gaining clarity on what you want if nothing else matters. If the what do you actually want? Like if I ask you, Brian, what makes you happy at your core? What's the answer to that?
Canoeing on a beautiful lake.
Okay. So there you go. But a lot of
It
people
helped if there was a gorgeous, wonderful, intelligent lady along with me, but that's beside the point.
but some people I would ask them that question and they'd be like, and it would take them a long time to get to answer that question, right? Because they don't have clarity on what they actually want. Maybe they're influenced by the outside world and what the outside world tells them they need.
A lot of what you're talking about here, zero apologies, no more settling, no more second guessing, is suggesting that we settle too easily.
Absolutely. I know for myself, I settle even with my clients. They're like, "Oh, I went on a date with so and so, but he did this, but I didn't like this." And then again, they go out with him. I'm like, "But you just told me that you didn't like all these things and that, why are you settling?" So it's saying no to everything that you don't want and stop, trying to make it fit when it simply doesn't. And once you have clarity and you don't settle for anything less than you actually want, that is when your life starts to shift.
You advertised that you've got this 12-week Soulful Divorcee program. What's the 12-week Soulful Divorcee program? That's a lot of time.
Yes, it is, but sometimes you just need that time for transformation. So it's a complete online program where women have access to myself for soulful sessions, as well as a lot of women, as I mentioned, they come out of marriages and they don't have that community or that friendship. So I give them access to me for any tools on WhatsApp for any conversations that they need to move forward. And if they want to talk to someone, if they want to, chat, if they want voice messages, they can have access to me as well. I also give them a weekly oracle card reading to
A what? A weekly what?
oracle cards.
What's that?
So I'm able to tap into energy and feel the energy. So I can connect to their energy, see where they're at and what they need to work on towards that week. And then they can use that information.
Oh God, I want to do that. Can you do that with me too?
I can. Absolutely.
So
Not
these
right
oracle
now.
these
I'll
oracle
send
cards
you a
work.
card.
These oracle cards work with men as well as females?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how much does a 12-week Soulful Divorcee program cost?
So there are different tiers, but people can go on my website and book a discovery call and we can chat about what works best for them. I also have payment plans available.
And what's the website they need to go to?
It's born-for-more.com.
Born for more con. You also talk a lot about community. and you talk about for those ready to reclaim their power, reshape their narrative, and stop apologizing for wanting more. We gather to rise. We stand in solidarity to speak our truth and remember who we've always been. This was a movement in motion, and the real shift, it's only just beginning. Is there something about community that's key here?
Absolutely. When we have support, we can move forward and pursue things that maybe we didn't think we could, whether that's your friends being cheerleaders, saying, yeah, you can do it, go for it. Or again, businesses, right? So the more support we have, the more we excel and the more we're able to go or pass through our fears and our limiting beliefs because we have support, we have that backing, and it makes us believe in ourselves even more until we are strong enough to tap into that inner strength on our own.
You said that when you got divorced, you didn't have any friends. How come?
Well, I kind of took that mom role. I kind of very secluded. I didn't have the time, family stuff, and it just took over that I didn't really realize how important it was. But because of that, I lost who I was. So when I came out of my marriage, I thought, okay, I need to reconnect with people. I need to find people who I aligned with. So I actually joined a gym, and I found a really cool community of women right there, and it made all the difference.
Is that part of the problem? Is that, sometimes in marriages and relationships, we end up sort of putting too much focus just on the one person and losing some of our other friendships?
Absolutely, because then we're always together and we don't bring new energy into the relationship, right? So it's all about growth, but you need other people, other things to add to it. And personally, that's what happened to me. It's not the same for everyone, but I know other women who have lost all their friends because they were married and the friends were both friends with the husband and wife. But then when there is no husband and wife anymore, who are your friends, right? So there's that as well.
You've got another post about finding yourself and building your empire. Why do you want to build an empire?
Well, it's different for everyone, but for myself, I just really want to do what I love to do, and I am doing it, and it makes me happy, right? So once you really connect to your passion, you're living in alignment, and it's fun to build an empire. It's not like you're going to work and not, at a job you don't like. You actually love what you do. For myself, sometimes I wake up at 6 a.m. I'm on the computer, I'm creating, I'm doing work, but it feels fun. And building an empire to me means living your best life and creating something that really sets your soul on fire.
You say as well that divorce is happening more and more, and that people don't want to talk about it, and that you want to talk about it such that people feel empowered. Do you think talking about divorce, because it's one of those things that people don't talk about a lot, does it
They don't
actually empower you if you talk about it? I've heard that no, you got to just sort of stop talking about it, stop focusing on it, stop dwelling on it, and move on.
Well, divorce carries a lot of shame to it. A lot of people feel like failures, and I want to shift that. It's something that, yeah, okay, it didn't go the way you thought, but it's not a failure. It's a learning opportunity. I didn't realize how much divorce was a taboo until I was creating this event, and my Google ads were flagged. They were flagged on social media because it had that word divorce on. And I was shocked because I'm like, but why? It's like menopause. No one wanted to talk about menopause. Now there's a menopause conference every week. Before no one wanted to talk about obesity. And now there's all kinds of fitness programs. So this is happening. Let's talk about it, but let's not let it weigh us down. Let's use it to propel ourselves forward and make ourselves better.
You talk as well about how there's a taboo about talking about divorce and that you don't want to have it be a taboo. And then you say divorce isn't failure, it's freedom. It's the moment you choose you over settling for less than you deserve. a space to turn life's twists into your next level up and build a life that truly ignites your soul. Sounds like you think divorce is this wonderful thing.
It's not a wonderful thing, but it is something that happens, right? That it's not planned. So instead of crying about it, which I've done my fair share, let's cry about it, let's heal from it, but let's use it I always compare it to manure, right? Manure, you use it to help your fruits and your gardens grow. So let's use this manure in a way to help ourselves grow and become better and more aligned to ourselves.
Let's use this manure to help us grow. I think that's an interesting analogy. We're going to take a final break and come back with some concluding comments talking about divorce and Born for More and the Soulful Divorcee in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking divorce tonight with Kathryne Mejias of the Soulful Divorce of an organization that she thinks that we're born for more, and she wants to help female divorcees achieve that. Kathryne, I've been struggling over your last name. Is that your married name or your maiden name?
So my maiden name is actually Small, Kathryne Small. And I'm all about empowerment. So once I got married, I took my husband's name, my ex-husband, which is Mejias, which means Messiah. So legally, I'm the small Messiah, which is more fitting for my platform.
Why didn't you go back to small?
Because it's not who I am anymore, right? I've built my identity about Kathryne Mejias, which is all about empowerment, moving forward. And it's my own identity shift.
So, it's interesting as I'm sitting here listening to you. I'm divorced. I was married for 33 years. She asked for the divorce. I didn't. And a lot of the things that you've been talking about, I resonate with in regards to, I don't, anyway, we won't go into that. But she kept the married name, which I felt bad about because it was my name and she's taken it. And and in the divorce proceeding, I wanted to put in a sentence, and she has to give back my name. I was told by the lawyers I wasn't allowed to do that, and I was very frustrated with that. But I hear more and more that there's guys that either were good guys or thought they were good guys or reasonably good guys that ended up having females leave them because they just weren't happy. And they sort of feel gypped by everything that you've been talking about the sort of women's empowerment and finding yourself and not being happy and leaving what were reasonably good marriages. What would you say to someone like me that feels that way?
Well, I'd say it's an incredible opportunity to dive deep within yourself and maybe look into things that your ex-wife said about you and see, is that true? Right? Because a lot of times we don't want to look at ourselves and we just paint ourselves a certain way. But meanwhile, she probably told you certain things that you kind of disregarded. So I think it's a great opportunity to look at yourself and not shy away from these feelings, from these emotions that are within you, and try to understand better so that you can learn about yourself, because that's really essentially what life is about, to learn who you actually are and bring that into the world.
So there are organizations like yours for men?
Well, I'm not sure if there are, but because it's a very unique, out of the box topic. It's an organization. So maybe you want to start an organization for men, Brian.
No, I'm just happy going on with the rest of my life, quite frankly. So, bottom line, are you optimistic about the future of marriage? Or, some people talk about we should have these 5 or 10-year renewable contracts because, monogamy for a lifetime was maybe possible when we had a sort of a 40-year lifespan, but next to impossible when we've got a 80 to 100-year lifespan. What do you think?
Well, I think we're always evolving. Our consciousness is always growing and everything is always changing. So who knows what the future of marriage can be? What is important is the present moment right now and how we can be our best selves in the now moment.
How we can be our best selves in the now moment. Okay. If people want to access go to your events or buy your book or check out your 12-week session, how do they do that?
So they can check out my Instagram at Kathryne Mejias. They can also access my website at born-for-more.com. I have a newsletter coming out next week, so they can sign up to get the latest on all my events, retreats, session, books, and programs.
Kathryne Mejias, this has been a really interesting conversation. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a great day.
And good luck dating.
Thanks.
That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I remind you I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. All of my podcasts and videos are available on my website, briancrombie.com, on social media, on YouTube, on podcast servers, as soon as the radio show is broadcast to air. So you can check me out in lots of different ways. I guess, I think that bottom line, we probably don't know ourselves as well as we could and should. And we've got to take that opportunity to delve into who we are, what makes us happy. And while, life does have its pitfalls and a lot of challenges and problems, I agree with Maria or the Mother Superior or Kathryne in that, every time a door closes, a window does open, and we've got to look on the bright side of things, and we got to look for that opportunity. We got to look for the ways to grow. And I do think that life is a journey of trying to find out who exactly you are, what makes you happy, what's your passion, what makes you tick. And I guess the other thing that Kathryne talks about that really is critically important and something that, if you've been following me for a while, I speak about passionately about community. And Community Power Co. Specifically, I agree with Kathryne that community is critically important, and too often we forget those social relationships and how they're critically important in tough times. And you can't just wait to the tough times to make sure that you call out to your family, your friends, your connections. You've got to fertilize them, cultivate them during the good times as well as the bad. Anyway, Kathryne, it's been interesting. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.